Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy KAIO and I'm back again. It's time to give you another One Piece video. Yes guys, I am finally back this time. I mean it, I am back. So you will be seeing a lot more content from me rather than what's been going on over the past few months, because I did my channel update saying I'll be coming back. Then I did a chapter review when Gear 5 came out and I said I probably would carry on and I didn't. But to be fair, the hiatus was needed because it gave me a lot of, thinking to do about what I want to do with the channel. And now I finally know what I want to do with it. So I'm going to be doing a lot of different series. Well, it'll be the same series, different character. In this case, it'll be Luffy, then it'll go Zoro and Sanji. And I want to talk about each character's fight. So I'm looking forward to doing Luffy's. This is going to be a very, very long one. But as you can see from the thumbnail, I've done 3 of Luffy's opponents. And it will be like that for the next video, but with 2 characters. Of course, you guys can guess who they are because they're not in the thumbnail. But in this one, I have Alvida, Morgan, and I do have Buggy. Now, Buggy will be the majority of it because, as you guys know, Alvida was just a one-hit punch, really. So you might as well just call it One Punch Man. And then when it comes to Morgan, this one, see, now the thing is with that fight, it's Luffy and Zoro, even though Zoro dealt the final blow while Luffy dealt the final blow on Helmeppo. But, they still did technically fight, so that's why I'm going to throw them in on that one. And of course, there will be Buggy afterwards. So guys, all I'm going to say is, without further ado, let's get into the Luffy versus series. So make sure you grab your popcorn, drink whatever you want, and enjoy the show. So Luffy's first fight was against Alvida, even though there's not really much to talk about on this fight because, as I said, it was just one hit. That's all it was. It was just, the introduction to One Piece. You throw the boy in, comes out of a barrel, talks to Kobe, fat shames Alvida, but of course we get the little part that, we know what Luffy wants to be, which is to be the king of the pirates, and of course Kobe wants to be a marine. But that's when Alvida comes in, and then they have their fight. Luffy takes a hit, and then pretty much just ends Alvida and her crew in one sitting. And to be fair, it was pretty simple, pretty quick. Good introduction to a fight, didn't take too long, it was just showcasing what Luffy is capable of. Now, moving on to his second fight, which, as I said, you can go about it 2 different ways. I'm going to be talking about it with Zoro as well, because technically when you look at it, yes, Zoro did deal the finishing blow, but at the end of the day, it was still Luffy and Zoro. So I am going to be bringing up this fight in both videos. So with this fight, it was pretty much another bog standard fight. There was nothing too crazy going on. It was Luffy showcasing, then you had Zoro showcasing. Wasn't too much flexing from either of them, but they still did what they did. And of course, it was against the Marines, not like Alvida, who was a pirate. But then saying that, with Luffy getting his crew member being Zoro, and then taking on Helmeppo and Morgan, it just wasn't really that much of a fuss for Luffy. You could just tell that they just had to do what they did, and they kicked ass. That's all they had to do. There was nothing spectacular that happened. But yeah, Morgan's got his ass kicked. Now, after everything happens with Morgan's, obviously Kobe stays there. Luffy and Zoro make their way to Orange Town, where Luffy, I would include Moji and Richie, but nothing significant. I know you guys would say, what about Alvida and all that? Why can't you just start with Buggy? But at the end of the day, they were the fights that happened. They weren't quick fights. Well, technically Alvida's was, but with Moji and Richie, didn't really need to worry about that. Didn't really care. The main focus was Luffy versus Buggy, because it did have some importance to it. And what I mean by importance is that obviously with Luffy meeting Shanks as a kid, and then obviously Luffy eating the devil fruit, it's quite funny what happens when you think. So because of Shanks, Luffy ate the devil fruit, and then because of Shanks again, Buggy ate his devil fruit, but by accident. So yeah, Shanks is a bit of a influence on people eating devil fruits. It's quite funny how that works out. But of course, Buggy hates Shanks. When we first watched it or read it, whatever you guys did, we were like, why does Buggy hate Shanks so much? Yes, okay, the devil fruit stuff happened, but then little did we know that when you fast forward all the way until Wano with Oden's flashback, you would think that, Shanks and Buggy would be the best of friends, because, they were little at the time, roughly about the same age I think they are, and, they were part of the Pirate King's crew. They were going around. Unfortunately, they didn't, go to Raftel because Buggy got ill and Shanks looked after him, which I think if it was the other way around, would Buggy have done that? Potentially, maybe maybe not. But of course, they have, you know, crossed paths since that part, because at Marineford, Shanks turned up, Buggy saw him, and you can see that Buggy had the issue, whereas Shanks was like, hey Buggy, you're good, and, you know, gets him to deliver the straw hat. So after hearing everything, you know, that Buggy was saying about Shanks to Luffy, you can see that Luffy got really annoyed. But what really annoyed him the most is that when Luffy's hat got pierced by Buggy's blades. But when you look at the fight, you could say it was pretty even, but for the most part, nah, okay, yeah, Nami jumped in and she tried to help, but to be fair, Luffy had the majority of the fight, and I think I'm safe to say he had the majority of the fight under control. Of course, it was nice to see what another Devil Fruit user was like, because I kind of like the build-up between Luffy and Buggy, I guess more so just before they got to Orange Town. When you heard about, you know, Buggy being a Devil Fruit user, and you saw the design and he's a clown, like I remember when I very first like watched One Piece, yeah, this was the 4Kids dub, but we don't talk about that unless it's the rap. The opening, completely fine, but when we talk about that, it's sending shivers down my spine. I did not like that dub. I don't know why I watched it, but that's what happens when you're a kid. So anyways, going back to talking about Luffy versus Buggy, yes, the build up was great because it gave us like a little bit more in-depth stuff about, you know, Devil Fruits, about how there's different types, obviously not showing that there's Paramecia, Logia and Zoans, or mythical Zoans, but it was just nice to see Oda showing us some different types of Devil Fruit users, like Buggy, for example, with his Chop Fruit, which, not gonna lie, I actually think it's pretty cool, as it has been proven useful, like against the likes of Mihawk. Not saying he's obviously going to destroy a Mihawk in a fight, but the fact the man can get chopped up and he's just like fine, hence the name Chop Fruit. It was just nice to see how Luffy was going to fare off against him being a rubber man, because at the time obviously we didn't know about Haki as well, because then it would have been completely different. But at the time, seeing how Luffy had to keep his wits about him and, you know, had to dodge and, you know, trying to, you know, get some moves in on Buggy, because obviously one wrong move, he could have got completely sliced up. He could have actually lost that fight, because Buggy could have potentially killed him, but of course he didn't. And in the end, obviously Luffy won. Luffy has to win, obviously, because he's the main character. I'm not saying that Luffy hasn't lost fights, because of course he has, which, you know, when we get to him, I will obviously point them out, of course, but you guys all know which ones he lost. But anyway, going against Buggy, you can't really have Luffy sort of like losing straight away. You kind of have to sort of showcase what he can do as well. And I do love Luffy's Devil Fruit. I think it's perfect for what he does, especially what we know now. But with what we knew back then, I was absolutely obsessed with his Devil Fruit, and to have him go up against someone who would basically have cut him to shreds and then using his Buggy Balls, but of course the Buggy Balls weren't exactly going to do anything to him because, well, it's Luffy. Luffy isn't really going to be affected by that. Whereas with the knives on the other hand, and, you know, the fact that he can, you know, shoot different body parts off, whether it be his feet, because obviously they had blades coming out the end of his shoes, whether he had them coming out of his gloves, so much bad stuff could have happened to Luffy. Like I said, yes, his hat ended up getting cut, and that's what really annoyed Luffy that much, to the point where Luffy was like, you know what, you've cut the hat, I dislike you, I'm gonna go in and just kick 10 tons of crap out of you, which he actually did. He didn't really necessarily like beat him to a pulp, but that bazooka did a real number on him. The fact that he was able just to send him flying, like, bazooka's one of the best moves, not gonna lie, like, no cap, it is definitely one of like the best moves Luffy's ever done. But it just goes to show that even for someone like Buggy, who was part of the Roger Pirates, you would have thought Buggy would be like this top tier. Don't get me wrong, I do love Buggy. Everyone loves Buggy. But for someone like Buggy, who is part of like Roger's crew, the Pirate King's crew, like, you probably would have thought, mate, I would have expected a lot more from him. Not just get absolutely pulverized by Luffy. Not saying he got absolutely destroyed, but yeah, Luffy still technically won. But I'm not saying that everyone on Roger's crew has got to be that powerful. But even though Buggy's now obviously officially a Yonko, but I did enjoy this fight. Okay, it wasn't much, but for what we got, and seeing more of the Devil Fruit users, like between Luffy and Buggy, seeing how they would fare off against each other, learning about Shanks and Buggy, that they had, you know, I guess you could say a friendship, because it technically was. Yes, you could say, oh, they were rivals on the ship, which they technically were, but you can see that if the roles reversed, like I said earlier, I think Buggy probably would have looked after Shanks, but of course it had to be Buggy got ill and that Shanks obviously looked after him. So I do think that there is some respect there, and I do think it does go a little bit deeper, but of course we have to wait for more on the story in that one. But yeah, no, so guys, these were the first 3 fights. Of course, I'm going to be talking about Kuro and Don Krieg next, so look forward to that video. So guys, if you liked this Luffy versus series, make sure to check out the next one. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you smash the video with a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What did you think of the first 3 fights? If you do enjoy this series, make sure you hit the subscribe button, because I've got a lot more Luffy versus videos to come out, and of course the rest of the characters, which could possibly be your favourites, like Zoro, Sanji, Robin, Chopper. I'm going to go through every single one of the Straw Hat crew at first. So yeah, make sure you hit the subscribe button, smash the notification bell so you guys never ever miss a post, and I'll see you guys for the next video. So until then, see ya.